welcome to KPASA. This is a podcast of the Great Plains Baptist Association. And today we have a very special guest with us today, Charlie Floyd. Charlie's the pastor at Texola Baptist Church. On an earlier podcast, he shared his testimony, how he came to Christ as his Savior, 11 years old. Now, Charlie, why don't you share just a little bit with us about how did God call you to ministry?
Pretty soon after I was saved, I went to feeling things.
Okay.
I was just young. I didn't know what to do about it. And I had 4 brothers, and brothers, you know how they can be. And I would mention it to some of them. They'd make fun of me and, well, preach us a sermon, you know. Mm-hmm. I guess it stemmed from the fact whenever I was a little baby boy, just talking good. I can remember going to church and heard the preacher preach, and that got me excited. Mm-hmm. And so they set me on a table in the living room and had me preaching. And the preacher had talked about damnation. I hope this is all right, but absolutely. I got to, in my little mind, I thought, boy, I can get away with cussing if I be a preacher. So I was not talking as good as I should. Mom
well,
walked
that was before you got saved.
Yeah, and Mom put an end to that preaching. But I have the table in my study that they had me standing on.
Oh, next time I come over, I'm going to look at your damnation table.
That was my first pulpit.
I'm going to call it your damnation table.
Well, maybe you call it a damnation pulpit.
Damnation pulpit. So.
But anyway, back to what you asked me, is through high school, I just had these feelings all the way through. And I wanted to be a cowboy.
You still are a cowboy.
Well, not much anymore.
Right.
But anyway, we run from that as hard and fast as I could. Mm-hmm. I didn't like getting in front of people talking, and I just stowed my life away for a while. And I woke up in an old place that I shouldn't have been one morning, about 3 in the morning. My buddy said, "You better get out of here. That guy's fixed to cut your throat." And so we jumped up and left. And I never did know what I'd done or how or anything. But God got a hold of me. And pretty soon after that, I went and talked to my pastor, which was Walter Knox. Mm-hmm. That was at Eric for a long time. And I surrendered to preach under his ministry. And that's kind of the story.
So did you do some supply preaching after that?
Whatever I could.
Right.
Whatever I could. It was pretty interesting. That we had a pretty good movement along about that time, 69, 70.
Right.
And they were having revival all over the country. And me and a friend of mine would get in the car and go to all these revivals, hoping maybe they'd let us give our testimony, you know. And we went all over the country. Amarillo, Lawton, and you know, all the local country down there. And my father-in-law, which was to be my father-in-law, he got a hold of it, and he called me to Texola and to preach. And I done what I could. Quite a charming, you know.
I do that every Sunday.
But that's it. And so pretty soon after that, Wellington called me.
Okay, so Wellington was your first church? What
first
church was it at Wellington?
It's Faith Baptist in Wellington.
Faith Baptist in Wellington. About what year was that, 70?
I think it's 71.
71, okay.
72. And I was there a little while. And then I decided it's time to get out of that. I had that preacher syndrome to quit. Mm-hmm. And I tried to go back to farming. That lasted about, maybe a little less than a year.
He went to gambling.
Huh?
Went to gambling,
yeah,
farming.
Yeah. I was working for another guy. And there was a crew at Seminole, Texas, where I was living, that was working on the road. And I was plowing cotton one day, and a guy pulled up the end of the road and climbed up on the tractor and said, "I hear you're a preacher." And I said, "Well, I preach a little bit." And that led to the call at Martin Baptist in Texas, in Clarendon, Texas.
Clarendon, Texas, Martin Baptist Church.
Yeah,
okay.
It's out at the edge of town. I was there 4 years.
Wow.
And at the end of that ministry, I went to a ranch south of Clarendon, and there was a little old country church down there that everybody thought I was going to go pastor. And I said, "No, I don't. I think I'm through." You know, I was out thanking God. And one morning I drove by checking cattle, and I drove by that little old church, and there's 3 cars sitting there. I went and checked my cattle, and when I come back, I had to stop in there, and I walked in, and I decided, okay, I'll do it. I couldn't find nobody. in the church. And finally, way back in the back, there was 3 little old ladies praying. I could hear them praying. And when I got them praying, I looked up, and all of them shouted and hollered, said, God answered our prayer, because here you are.
Wow.
And so I pastored that little church at Bryce, Texas.
Bryce, Texas. What was the name of it? Do you remember?
It was Bryce Baptist Church.
Bryce Baptist Church.
And we preached there for 2 or 3 years. I was working on a ranch and traveling. A lot of times just on Sunday morning.
Right.
But I think we baptized 15, 20 people there in the
wow.
2 or 3 years I was there. So God was in it. After that, I moved to Borger on another ranch. And while I was at Borger, a Texola called me. And that's...
What year was that?
84.
1984.
1984.
So if you're watching this video, you can do math. So that means Charlie Floyd has been the pastor at the Texola Baptist Church since 1984. You're working on 41 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good math.
Yeah.
You know, not many preachers stay at the same church for 41 years. So
Nothing on my part.
no,
It
no.
was just, I didn't have nowhere else to go.
We will go to that in our next podcast. Hey, that was a testimony of God's call to ministry. I think it's a good reminder, just like Jonah ran from God. I mean, being a preacher's tough, and so you may not understand that, and you go, man, what kind of guys do we have as preachers? I'll tell you what we have as preachers. We have real people with real problems that are not perfect, and God calls imperfect people, and then He puts them on a perfect direction for His will. So, hey, Charlie, thank you for coming today, sharing your testimony with us. We appreciate it.